This conference will now be recorded.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call. Janet Evans. Here. David Summer.
Here.
Michael Solori.
Here.
Tasha Busheen. Here. Jeff Hilder.
Here.
Okay, you stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public comment on something that is not on the agenda?
Morning. Morning. Arlen Reed, longtime residents. I have a few things today. Two that is with SCPOA, the Shelter Cove Property Owners Association. I want to thank Nick and Cassidy, Fire Department, for following us down to do a trash pickup on last Sunday. We had 17 bags of trash picked up. Did a thorough job, went farther down the hill and got some cans that had the full tops on them, how long the trash has been down. It's another thing like having the porta potties clean at a job site though. As soon as it's clean, everybody wants to soil it. And I even saw a battery the next day, a 12-volt battery on the side of the road. Did go and pick it up, but it's a shame to see the trash on such a beautiful place. And so, yeah, thank you for that. And then also with last month, I brought SCPOA. We opposed the location of the pickleball court. This month, we found a new spot for it, a little bit farther up the road on Upper Pacific. It can have our initial design of it is 3 pickleball courts, 2 basketball courts with flat walls for solo play, and then also integrate a climbing wall with it, how it fits with the place. It also is in a location where sewer could be hooked up for bathrooms also. We talked about the court itself being raised in a click together fashion with the lines already on it. So if anything is damaged by a tree falling on it, all you have to do is just take out one section and replace it with the other. It's also off the ground, so the moisture, it takes away of it. You can play in the moisture in any rainy day. We also discussed trees, so a blower would probably be necessary to keep that place clean. But even in just 1 month, the plan can be thought of. Everything can be thought of in a plan. And I think it's in a great location where we have it. It's Upper Pacific on the nature trail, parking on both sides, access, plenty of parking. And that's it with SCPOA. And then the last thing I want to bring up is on the meeting last time with Jeff, newly sworn in, and then Tesha, you asked him about ethics. You know, you questioned his ethics right after swearing into, and I think that's wrong. You should, be a little bit nicer. That's it.
Anyone else? Okay. Moving along to the consent calendar.
I did raise my hand to comment.
There is a public comment.
Can we remind them about the 3 minutes?
And yeah, there's a 3-minute limit, and they have to go.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to raise a few points. I did talk to Jeff and examine the proposed new location. I have a few points to raise. Number one, They're talking about a fair distance into the nature trail at a location that's elevated about 8 to 10 feet above the main trail in a wooded area. The engineering requirements would be massive. You would need to put in a retaining wall that's on the order of 150 feet. You would have to take out about 25 trees, and the steep hillside, the drainage plan would be formidable and not likely approved by the county. And you're also next to a recognized waterway, which would likely involve the Army Corps of Engineers. In short, even though anything can be done from an engineering standpoint, the costs would far, far exceed the proposal to build courts on flat, clear land near the community center. So you're talking about significantly higher costs. Finally, in discussing that with a few community members, I can guarantee that the community opposition to a massive construction project on the nature trail, followed by having courts there where people are laughing and having fun and making quite a bit of noise, would not be compatible with the serene natural setting. And there would be a lot more community opposition to that location than to the community center, which has already received massive community support.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Good morning. My name is Florentin, and I've been in this community for 4 years. I don't know all of you, but I know some of you here. And I heard the comments, from Mike and from Ate, but I'm dismayed that we already had a public hearing 2 years ago. Is it right?
Pardon?
2 years ago, we had a public hearing about the sports. Is correct?
2 or 3 years ago.
Right, because it was approved that by the previous board at that time, so the public hearing was happening.
It was about 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was before.
But it's been approved, the location has been approved, the whole plan has been approved, right? For the board member, is there a good reason, because I don't understand, why we are looking now for a different place?
We can't comment on this topic at this time because it's not on the agenda. This is strictly public comment. And then at a later date, we'll be able to address that. Nothing's been formalized, but we can't really speak to that right now.
So, okay, next question. Then why are we still bringing this issue up? Since the previous board approved something, we had the money for it, and everything else is going on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Any other public comment?
I would like to make, you just made a comment.
There, please.
You just said to the audience here that we haven't got the money for it. What is the basis for that comment?
Yeah, you can go.
Bruce, this isn't on the agenda, so we're not allowed
Okay,
to.
so
Now, maybe she shouldn't have just said that under her breath, but we're not allowed to respond to the public comment.
In the very back row heard it.
And we didn't respond to his comment either. This is public
Okay,
comment.
So we're gagged, but.
No,
Okay.
no, you can say your public
sorry,
comment.
You're gagged. Okay.
Yeah, we're gagged, right, because it's not on the agenda. Otherwise, we would be saying something.
Clearly have an opinion.
Anything else?
Mm-mm.
Okay, we'll go to the consent calendar. Any of the board have questions on the minutes or on the checks?
Chris, if you could just give us clarification on this JTI electrical engineering bill.
Yeah, this is the ATI bill. It's the final bill for the PG&E solar system study. The amount is $2,522.50. And that is the final bill to complete that project. It did go slightly over their estimated budget, about $1,400 over their estimated budget for the complete report, based on them needing more information and more time to sift through all the data they gathered. Yeah, that's the
Final.
final bill.
Chris, I've got one for you too. It's the Humboldt Planning and Building Department.
Yes.
What is that all about?
That is for the sports court project, the coastal, coastal commission project review, or, follows previous board decision, relatively small amount within the original approved budget, set aside for cost share on that project. We've also eliminated the biological survey as part of that report. Coastal development permit review, Humboldt County planning permit process.
Do we have any plans currently for that? Or is there anything that's budgeted? It seems pretty ambiguous to me. So I would love to see more on that. I'd like to see a full budget of this sports court.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mike or Dave, do you have any?
Nope.
Okay. I have a question. On this $12,600 inertia engineering, is that for like buying transformers, or, because I know our guys are the ones doing the power pole replacement, is that the equipment that goes on the pole?
Three-phase gang operated switches.
Okay. And on this, over in the ones paid prior to board approval, the Umpqua Bank Visa just says miscellaneous for $2,900. When that comes in, does it get booked to the various departments, so it's accumulated correctly? It's just
Yeah.
here, it just says miscellaneous.
Yeah, it goes, various purchases, they go to their specific line items in the budget.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to use the credit card for.
Well, yeah, obviously. I just wanted to make sure it's getting distributed.
Yeah.
And then the 3,300 for ESRI Inc., the IT services.
Yeah, I think that's our annual fee for the ArcGIS program.
Thanks. Any other questions? Public comment on the consent calendar?
That was my same one, the IT services, and how long is that gonna keep on going? And, I mean, it's always a IT on there. And for that much money, why not hire somebody to do some IT in-house?
Well, that particular bill is software, so that's licensing.
Like what Mike Briggs used to do?
No, software licenses you have to pay for frequently annually, monthly, depending on what they are.
I can speak to the SRE. The SRE is our GIS mapping that we're doing all of the infrastructure, and all of the fire department grants are also on that SRE. So we are using that software to leverage additional grant funds.
Any other questions from the public on the consent calendar and bills? All right. And we have a motion.
Yeah. Oh. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for September 19th, 2024 regular board meeting, and approve the bills for September 2024.
I second the motion.
Roll call. Mike Stewart.
Aye.
Dave Summer.
Aye.
Fred Holder.
Aye.
Stephanie Sheen. Aye. John Evans. Aye. Motion carries. Correspondence and discussion items. Chris?
Yes, so, first item, Humboldt County correspondence, Lieutenant Call emailed me saying he will be unable to attend this meeting today, so no report from the sheriff's office. And we're not aware of any other Humboldt County correspondence reports. We will pass that item up
Okay.
and go to district strategic planning. Item 2. So this is just a second viewing of the administration department strategic plan. As I said last time, each department within the district is developing its own draft strategic plan. These individual plans define the responsibilities of each department, their role and their ultimate goal for the future, along with projects and plans. So when combined all together, these individual draft plans will form a blueprint for the entire district. The focus of this discussion item is the plan for the administration department, which is presented here for the second time for final review. Changes made since the last board meeting include a more aggressive timeline and a few additions. So, are there any questions on this draft plan?
On here, improve grant management, and it's investigated the potential to sub out the grants to a dedicated grant writer or engineering firm for grant project management. And it says December 25. So that's a year from now. I think that we need to kick that up. I think that to me it should be happening now, not waiting another year.
July.
Right here.
July.
Okay. Still. No, Mike, it's the bottom one.
Yeah, that was a new one.
Okay. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I like the more aggressive timeline. I hope we can get close to it. That would be great. I think we're headed in the right direction.
Chris, under the improve the work order system, so this will be work order systems for all of the departments,
Yes.
encompass all of the departments.
Yes. In many cases, what we're investigating is the work order system kind of combined with the billing portal and the county software. So it's kind of a software program that'll allow us to do work orders in addition to all those other functions.
Okay. And with these timelines, each of these things are going to take time to implement and to get it right. Now, these are a little bit more aggressive timelines that you've put in. I'm just wondering, will this be done in phases then? And so we will be seeing some movement on these projects prior to the deadline, correct?
Yeah. If you notice, some of them we've already started, if not completed.
Any other comments? Or my only concern with Jeff, when you were mentioning that you wanted the grant writing moved up, I think we need to do the grant writing, but I think we also have to get our finances in order before we ask for any more grants. We got to get audits completed that haven't been done, because that's critical to us being able to get grants. So while maybe a little more aggressive once we get the audits done, I think it's got to be totally up in the air for that.
Yeah.
Until all that audit is complete.
Do we have a time frame on those audits for completion?
No, not really. I ask CPA weekly or more than once a week for progress reports, and they basically tell me that they're trying to get information from the county. The county's been highly non-responsive, and so they're trying to get their information and complete it. They tell me they think it'll be soon. So once the CPA closes out the books for those years and gives us final numbers or adjustments that are necessary, then we can move things on to the auditor with a different CPA. We have completed some questionnaires for them to begin their work. So the auditor is on standby waiting for the other CPA to complete that portion of the process.
And what's the timeline on the auditor?
I don't know. I haven't asked them yet because I haven't given them anything except for the questionnaire.
Is it someone we've used before?
No, these are brand new
Oh, okay.
CPAs. We haven't worked with them in the past.
Okay.
They come highly recommended from other special districts, however. So
good.
we're hopeful.
Okay, thank you.
Janet, I think my comment would be, I agree with you as far as the budgeting, but I think that the process is laborious. And I think that in order to know what grants to even apply and how, what the matching funds would be, I think that there's a lot of homework that could be done in the process at the same time.
Have you thought about asking Michelle Chanel for some help with the county lighting a fire under them?
No, I haven't thought about that yet, but I think I do.
What do you think of that?
And yeah, for future, I'll be maintaining the strategic plan topic on the discussion section for future board meetings, and I'm hoping to present a draft Parks and Rec strategic plan at the next board meeting. Any other questions, comments?
Public have any questions on the strategic plan for Chris?
My comment is thanks. It's looking good.
Okay, and I will move on to item 3, retirement of distribution and repair foreman Bud Lair. I know last week we had a retirement party in this room for Bud Lair, and I wanted to just formally commemorate his service here for the district. For those who don't know, Bud Lair retired from the district last week after almost 21 years of the most dedicated and admirable service any employer could ever ask of any employee. Bud was the face of the district. Anytime anyone needed help, no matter if it was day or night, a weekend, a holiday, no matter the weather, and no matter if it was a fellow RID worker or a community member, he was there to help. In fact, community members would call him directly, which we're going to have to let the community know at some point to stop. It's a little difficult to define Bud's position with the district. Regardless of his job title, he did it all. He repaired broken water mains, mowed the golf course, directed the Eel River Conservation Camp crews, fixed the ice machine at the clubhouse, built and painted walls, flagged for traffic, and operated any equipment asked of him. And he did it all with a positive attitude and a serious drive to get it done and get it done right. He was proactive in finding the problems before they presented themselves. Bud's the guy you want on your side at all times. Extremely loyal and to the point. He can tell you like it is whether you want to hear it or not, and he cares to the utmost. In fact, he cares almost too much, where he loses sleep for the district. He wants everything right for everyone. He'll show up at your door out of the blue because the district needs help, and he has to talk about it. Bud's a friend, and it will be a huge challenge going forward without him on the team. We will all miss him, but if anyone deserves a break, it's him. I wish him the most rewarding and relaxing retirement possible. And I did, I guess I'll ask the board if you'd like to see the slideshow of his time with the district. I know you saw it at the retirement party, so the public, it might be good to see too. So it's about a 4.5 minute slideshow with a song, and I'll go ahead and share my screen. Again, might have volume issue. Volume's coming through. So. Well, yeah. I'm gonna stop it just for a second. Let's try it again.
Here's that.
but
It looks like, oh, do we have any public comment from anybody on any of that, for that discussion item on Bud? Other than our applause, because we're grateful to him for everything he's done. If not, then I guess we move ahead to board member and staff reports. Do any of you have things to report? Gosh, I know you've been working hard.
Well, not that hard. I completed the webinar training on the critical nature of communication within a public agency. And I attended the Measure O presentation that was held at Annapolis Coast, and that was very informative. One thing I will say about that real quickly is if it does pass, it does a couple things. One, it potentially will free up the regular road maintenance from county funds to actually be utilized. They've been needing to use their regular maintenance funding for different grant matches and different FEMA related projects that where the county, much like the district has to do with grants, we have to match a certain amount. And then we also have to, and what the county's been having to do is provide the money up front for a lot of these FEMA projects that we have had going. And so it takes them they said about 6 to 7 years to be paid back from the federal government. And so that explains some of the shortfall in the road maintenance budget. And so if Measure O does pass, it can potentially free up that money for regular road maintenance. The other thing it can also do is provide the county and potentially with matching grant funds so they can go for bigger projects that's needed. With that said, if it does pass, it will require at least speaking for Shelter Cove, it will require this board being and the community being extremely proactive with the Humboldt County supervisors and petitioning them to make sure that we see those funds as well. And then also I attended the first Wednesday of the month fire training drill or fire training, and that evening we went over all of the vehicles, and yeah, it was very informative. And I really encourage members of the public of the community to come to these trainings just to sit in and see what your money is going towards, because it really is well worth it. That's all.
Anyone else? Mike?
Yeah. Chris, are we going to be able to use reclaimed water next summer for the golf course?
It's probably too soon.
Too soon?
Summer. We're going to probably postpone that until the NPDES permit renewal process, which is I think, a couple years from now.
A couple of years from now? Okay. All right. Thank you.
I was fortunate enough to be sitting on a board meeting with the tourism group. I think that was quite informative in them trying to bring in some added tourism and their creative ideas. I got to meet Tristan, who I did not know before, and being that she's going to be one of our next board members, so I got a little bit of chat. I also did, by chance, get to walk the other proposed pickleball site with Mark Bruno and had frank discussions with him. And I'm still gonna try to pursue with the local representatives and senators to see if we can't get the Shelter Cove Road part of Caltrans.
Yeah, the only thing I have to report is the agenda meeting that we do every month to set the agenda for each month. Kind of a weak month for me just doing that, but and worked a little bit on some of the financial stuff and attended the retirement party, which we all did for Bud to thank him for his service. Staff reports, Chris.
Okay, yes, we'll move on to property control staff reports. I'll start here with general manager's activities for the month of September. Worked on the hiring process for distribution repair foreman and general labor positions. Worked on the strategic plan, corresponded with the property owner of 495 C Court to finalize the electrical easement encroachment agreement there with legal support. Provided a brief tour of district facilities to the new board member, Jeff Hildreth. Coordinated with the library to install an internet access research computer there. They have a little computer nook now in the library, right next to the door. Worked on updating district policies. Corresponded with the district insurance providers, GSRMA's legal support over the Burns Court electrical incidents last month, which will be our first action item subject. Coordinated with staff to make the first deposit into the CalPERS SEP pension investment account. Starting on retirement investment, an additional account with CalPERS. Advanced security updated the security and alarm system for this building. So we're up to date now. Staff and contractors completed the front office remodel project. That was the extent of my report. Yes.
I completed some trainings this month on the Brown Act and succession planning, both webinar trainings. I participated in the interview process for the new general labor and the distribution and repair foreman positions, and then coordinated their pre-employment testing for that. And congratulations to Anthony Garrett as a new general laborer. And then also Joe Mendes completed his class in commercial driver's license. That was a big exciting thing for him. We had a representative from the State Coastal Conservancy that came to review, a final review on a grant that we received from them that provided the turbine and the mini excavator and the equipment trailer. So they came to verify that, and it seemed like a successful visit. I updated our state and county rosters to reflect the addition of Jeff Hildreth, and those get sent to the Office of Elections and the Secretary of State. And also got him set up with his laptop and his email and his membership to CSCA so he can participate in his training. And then after the last meeting, I worked with the Humboldt County Office of Elections regarding the recommendation for the last board seat due to the lack of candidates for the election. And they received a recommendation to defer to the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors for that selection, and they will prepare an agenda item for the Board of Supervisors sometime after the presidential election, and time so that we can see all of the new board members in December. We received approval from the FBI to obtain an ORI, which is an originating agency identifier. So this is if we want to do background checks on people. Now we have the ability to access background checks. We are required to review our conflict of interest policy every 2 years, and at the July 18th, 2024 meeting, you guys approved the changes to it, and this was finalized by the Board of Supervisors on October 1st, so that the new conflict of interest policy is now in effect. I initiated opening a bank account for the fire department with UMPA, and we also began trying to explore ways so that customers are able to pay their bills online with no fees. The the best answer that we got is we can do an e-check with our current services that will reduce the fee, but there is no fee options for online currently with any of the systems that we're using. We may be able to do this when we get new software. That would be an option potentially then. Let's see, coordinated with the power department to get the quarterly CHP basic inspection of terminals and trucks inspections completed. And that's required on some of our larger equipment that we have here. And we move back into the office after the remodel.
Frank Wilson, Water Wastewater Superintendent, is out today, so I'll go ahead and cover water, wastewater, Parks and Rec. For the water side, faulty water meter was replaced on Lower Pacific Drive, and Emerald Tech installed new security cameras at the water treatment facility. Wastewater, looks like they had to repair a RAS pump VFD at the wastewater plant. They had to drain one of the clarifiers due to that failed RAS pump VFD. They sampled for annual chronic toxicity, an annual sampling requirement. They reinstalled the influent flow meter after it was recalibrated. And it looks like they have to repair the sludge wasting disc press gearbox on the wastewater side. Parks and Rec, as Jessica mentioned, the front office remodel is completed. Joe Mendes completed his Class A schooling and successfully got a Class A commercial driving license now. Emerald Tech assisted with setting up new meter reading tablets for the crew. Security cameras at the water treatment facility and mine truck building. And then Eel River Conservation Camp crews assisted with the airport campus grass removal and spray with the vinegar solution. That's it for this department. John?
So last month, we completed a full pole line extension for a customer on Rawhide Court. There was a tree that fell and broke the line at Burns Court. Called in for a customer running over a secondary pedestal down on Upper Pacific. The tree breaking the line closure on PG&E side. Going generator. We'll use 60 gallons of fuel for that. Replace the batteries on the doors of the generator plant. Replace and pulled in new wires for the intake pump at the water plant and added a circuit for the cameras we plugged in. And there was an outage on the tie line. We used 103 gallons of fuel for that. And we had a scheduled outage on the Cove courts to change rock.
All right, so changed up the fire chief's report a little bit in the board packet. I'm trying to capture my presentation to you guys on something in writing first. So you guys have any recommendations or anything that you want to see out of the fire chief's report in the board packet, just tell me anytime, let me know. I'm trying to get this done. September is normally one of our most active wildfire times. This month we were fairly active in other parts of Humboldt County and the state, but we Shelter Cove remain fairly safe. We usually have 5 to 10 local initial attack fires, which are small fires that we're able to put out with a few resources, and that's the way we like to keep it. So we're not quite out of the woods yet. We have a bunch of red flag warnings south of us. That rain that we got last weekend was very fortunate, and we're looking pretty good on that. So I can sleep quite a bit better at night, knowing that the large fire chances are lowered in our area. Most of our units are going through the end of fire season, wintertime maintenance here coming up. So our main Type 1 engine, 5116, is still in the desto, getting its 4-year maintenance done on it. All the fluids are getting changed and tested so we can have an indication on any kind of wear and things like that. We'll have 5147, our duty officer, the small red truck that you guys see driving around. That will be going on in for its annual maintenance here, hopefully the next week or so. So we will see increased costs on that. But again, that's a yearly cost increase. 5116 is getting some repairs right now from the damage sustained on the airport fire. Slight damage to some of the steps. From some of the folks that know the terrain down there, it is very rocky and steep just outside of Orange County. But all that damage is covered in our OES costs that we receive from the state of California. So there will be no out-of-pocket costs on that for the district or the fire department. Right now, our incidents are predominantly medical aids. We had quite a few medical aids in September requiring air ambulance. So again, I remind the community, in Shelter Cove specifically, that air ambulance is worth its weight in gold. Please, if you do not have the insurance for CalOR or Reach air ambulance insurance, pick that up because it's good for your entire household and it's under $200. So we make no decisions based off you're insured or not. And when we decide to fly you, we pick it based off of what your condition is and what the potential of going to a hospital in Garberville versus a trauma center somewhere else. It's about the same drive time to Garberville from Shelter Cove as it is a flight to St. Joe's in Eureka or Howard Memorial in Willits. So we've been flying a lot more people for less serious injuries than we normally do. Because of the lack of medical care in Southern Humboldt and just the chance of the drive time. So we're justified in flying patients with anything more than a 30-minute drive time to a hospital, and it's less than that, or more than that from here to Garberville. So any medical aid is justified for us to fly you, but we do take into consideration how hard it's going to be to get back to Shelter Cove. If you guys have family members that can pick you up in Garberville, and then again, your overall care. And then it's also the ambulance coming from town call. But we have been flying a lot of people out from the airport. So with that being said, we did have a bird incident I spoke to a little bit last month. Technically, it would be in this month's report, but we did have one of our air ambulance hit a bird, actually right above the station here, and had to do an emergency landing at the airport in foggy conditions. So we have hazards even when we do it a lot, and it's usually a low risk evolution for us. You never know what happens. So even when we're going to fly people out, we have to do a full crew response for a crash truck, and we have about 14 firefighters even for a basic medical aid that could be needed. So we like to keep our membership up. Significant projects going on right now. The garage is actually going to be going up Monday. So I heard from the contractor, this has been a long project, an expensive project for 3 buildings from Measure Z funding, but it's greatly needed to get our boats and our apparatus out of the weather. Shelter Cove, one part about living on the coast is it takes a toll on your apparatus. So putting everything inside will be something that we needed for a long time. Right now, we have 2 grants going on simultaneously. We have a $960,000 CAL FIRE grant that's high limiting. So as you guys drive out Shelter Cove, you'll see the work going on 30 foot up both sides of the road on the trees. That's funded through CAL FIRE Prevention Grant led by the RID and the fire department. That's going all the way to Redway. And right now they're in Whale Gulch working from East Mountain Road all the way around Whitehorn back to Shelter Cove Road. I went out there and inspected it last week and it's looking really good. So ton of work. Those contractors were buried in about 15 foot of brush when I went out there trying to chip their way out. So proud of those guys. And then the USDA grant is getting going. So we have our bid out right now for contractors and they're inspecting properties. And they're going to be starting the first 40 homes here in about 3 weeks. So it's a very, very difficult, complex bid process where we have bids going out for 540 homes. Right now, they're just over 300 homes inspected. And our goal is to treat or give the opportunity to treat every home in Shelter Cove. So everybody is eligible. We have flyers up in the office and it's on our website to sign up for that grant. And they'll clear your home up to 100 feet. Right now, we're going from the property, so the home out 30 feet to get you the 30 foot of defendable space for the fire department to protect your home. And then we're going to come back and do 30 foot to 100 foot. So every house will get a full 100 foot defendable space. But we do need permission from the neighbors. We can't just go clearing lots without either permission or an abatement notice. So going into next month, I'll have an abatement notice letter for the board to approve. And in Shelter Cove, we do have a hazardous fuels ordinance. So if you say no to clearing your lot, to a minimum standard, you're breaking 2 laws. You're breaking the local ordinance, and then you're also breaking CAL FIRE defendable space, which is a state law. So people don't have a choice whether or not they meet the minimums for fire clearance. Now, we're not going to come in and rip out rose bushes. We're not going to come in and rip out any kind of what we call ornamentals that are watered and not a fire threat. But we're looking at natural vegetation, pampas grass, fir trees, needles, all that kind of stuff. And if you can keep it up on your dependable space, then the contractor will come out and clear your gutters, weed whack, mow your lawn, and try and get something that the people that have been listening to us say, hey, do your job. Try and reward them a little bit. Because the way this grant's working, the people that have done no dependable space are going to get the most out of it just because we're trying to get every home in the cove treated to a certain level. So they'll be coming around and looking at the homes on the list. Right now, it's pretty much whoever signed up first, we're going to get those homes based off of how much work is needed. But again, the first 40 homes are going out to bid right now, and we're going to have another 500 coming up in the next year and a half. So really excited about that. Other than that, our new ambulance, I got the build project number for that. So I know that some of the board members have been along for that ride for a couple years now. I'm glad we got ahead of it a year because we would have been a year out just waiting on chassis and everybody stacked up after the COVID issues with getting ambulances and fire trucks built. So hopefully we're seeing that sometime early spring if everything goes right. So I gotta go to Dallas and check out that plant and keep everything moving on that. But we use our ambulance to transport patients and your family members and loved ones out of the cove, so it's a big deal for us. The fire trucks, it's just firefighters driving in them. So important, but not as important as our patients. And then with our firefighters, we're up to 28, and we just got a new member interested in joining last night at the meeting, so that would be 29, and our goal is 30. So we're sticking right around that 30 firefighter goal, and they're quality firefighters. Everybody's trained to a certain standard, and that's what we're looking at is quality over quantity right now in our fire department, and it's been proven really effective on our incidents. So I'm pretty proud of the guys on that. And we've been going to a lot of prescribed burns. So it's prescribed burn season. One day, hopefully, we'll have some prescribed burns going on in Shelter Cove. But right now, we're assisting Bryson Fire, Humboldt County Prescribed Burn Association, and we were on a burn a couple days ago in MRC, the Soil Restoration Council over in Honeydew, getting some training and putting some of our equipment to use to help make the place safer. So a lot going on, really busy. But again, as Tesha said, please come out, check out the department. We meet Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock. Open house, so anybody that wants to come in and check things out, we encourage it. Thank you.
I got a question for Chris. Chris, I'm noticing a lot of repairs on that disc press. Is it rated for the volume of waste we're putting through it? And or is it too much? Are we working that machine too hard, or?
I'll have to ask Frank these questions.
Okay. I'm just wondering if it's maybe something we need to look at down the road, buying a bigger one to handle the volume that we're putting through it.
Good question.
Do we have any public comment or questions for the various superintendents?
Yeah, this is hilarious.
Yeah. Ms. Fox.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I just have a quick question. A slash reminder, the tee boxes still need a little bit of attention on the golf course. The last year's incident, and now it's growing weeds. It looks even worse than it did when it was clean sand. So I just hoping to remind everyone that would be great if that could get rectified with the winter. Also, I had a question. I feel like I came to a meeting a year ago, Chris, and you had gone to the community center and done a walkthrough, and I feel like you even had a number, 60 to 80K to revitalize the community center. You were going to give it like a facelift. I haven't heard much talk about that. I even feel like you talked about creating a clubhouse group, people that could maybe throw ideas off the wall on how we could sort of revitalize an area that could be awesome. Just curious if that really happened or if I'm just making that up because I haven't heard much about that since. And I just think with the sport court being downtown and the revitalized horseshoes and the bocce ball that we're going to bring back to life and all this new awesome stuff that's going to be down. I keep using the word downtown and people laugh at me, but downtown. I think a new community center, a revitalized community center could generate some money for everyone, rentals of all the equipment that's gonna be needed for all these recreational things. That's my question.
Yeah. No, you're not imagining that. There was a
There was a-
sort of an informal committee for a little bit of a time. We kind of stepped back once we realized how much work was going to be needed there, and then kind of fell back to the strategic plan and being able to assess that building and figure out exactly what path to do budget-wise on it. We did budget for repairing the south wall this fiscal year, which hasn't started yet, but that will be happening this fiscal year. And but
So rather than the whole project, you're maybe picking pieces of it to.
yeah, mainly because of budgetary issues, but yes. But there were some plans for that building to expand it, and then there were plans for a new community center, so
I've
we're
heard
just.
all these old scenarios. I'm just, I'm new. I'm looking at going forward and just curious how it's gonna go forward.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Okay, let's move along to action items.
Okay, the first action item is to consider customer request for reimbursement of affected property. As you recall, last month, a large canopy tree fell across the power lines on Burns Court. This caused an extended power outage in the area for several properties until the electrical crew could remove the hazard and repair the lines. After the electrical crew repaired the lines, they discovered a faulty transformer at 215 Burns Court. Apparently, the force of the tree falling on the lines damaged the transformer and it needed immediate replacement. According to a subsequent investigation by Swanson and Associates, which is the district's risk management insurance provider, GSRMA's legal support team, the electrical crew followed the procedure and repaired the line. They tested voltage, confirming the repair was complete and the line was in working order. However, sometime after the initial repair took place, according to the Swanson and Associates report, the neutral line from the transformer to the house fully severed, causing an electrical issue at 215 Burns Court. This resulted in a voltage imbalance and extensive damage to the customer's electrical equipment. The customer estimates $2,640 in damages due to the incident. Now, while the Swanson and Associates report states that the district is not legally liable for the damage to the property owner's items, they also state that the fact remains that the damage took place on the district's side of the lines. Thus, they recommend that the district settle this claim for the cost of the items damaged at actual cash value, which they estimated approximately $2,000. If the board agrees with this recommendation, Swanson and Associates, on behalf of GSRMA, will reach out to the property owner and negotiate the settlement. So your choice recommendation here is to approve or deny the recommendation by Swanson and Associates to reimburse the customer for the damaged property at actual cash value. And if approving Swanson and Associates' recommendation, staff also recommend that the board consider the customer's request for the new replacement cost versus actual cash value.
Chris, do we have a list from the homeowner of what the replacement cost is?
All of that correspondence was between the property owner and the Swanson Associates. So no, we never, none of the staff ever saw.
Okay, that would be interesting to see. But they're saying $2,000 is what it would come to.
They estimated approximately.
Is that based on what the customer or the resident has provided to them?
Yes, as far as I understand.
Oh, okay. I think it's, I'm trying to understand what the finances are and make sure that we're taking care of the resident with that. Okay. Questions?
Yeah, I think the difference between the 2,000 and the 2,600, the customer estimates 2,600. I think that's fair and keep good faith with our community. Absolutely. I mean, it's only a $600 difference. I think that $600 go a long way.
I'm with with Mike on that. I think that's fair. I am interested. I see Verena's here. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah.
But could you go up to that?
I'm not really sure where they came up with the 2,600 because actually it's more like 3,400 to replace. It was $1,800 refrigerator and get it delivered out here. But if you know, I would be willing to cover part of the cost. Happy to get 2,600. So I lost refrigerator, microwave, blender, coffee pot, a few different light fixtures, multiple light bulbs, whole refrigerator full of food. So it was really more like 30, and then by the time I paid somebody to put in the new light fixtures, probably more like 3,400. I would have to get at least to cover part of my house.
Those figures I got were from the Swanson and Associates representatives. I didn't verify those. That's what she told me.
Yeah.
I agree that we have to, that it's important that we cover these costs.
Make it right.
Make it right.
Absolutely.
Comment online.
Okay.
Okay, Mike, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, just a small comment, and of course, this is up to the board. My question is whether this is actually a force majeure issue. Whether it is or not, you may decide that it's better to make people whole. I agree with that philosophy. But then the other question to consider is this the sort of thing the board has done in the past? And second, and finally, is this going to set a precedent for the future? Just things to consider. And, I'm all for helping people out. I agree with that. So.
We haven't had this happen. I didn't think so.
I'm the same, back to the good faith issue. I have to agree with Mike on this one, that I think that it's the right thing to do.
We have a motion? Everybody? One more motion for the,
Do we have public comment on this before we take a vote?
I'll say that my house was blown off 2 years ago. The settlement that the insurance company said was $6,500, which I fought and eventually got $45,000. So I would never trust what an insurance company says. I would suggest have her replace it all, get the receipts, and table this until everything is taken care of and find out the actual number that I think you deserve.
I think my comment's going to be back to the representation we have, and keep it in the same channel that we already are currently in. I think that they need to talk with the homeowner and discuss the actual cost, but it still has to follow the same path that it's already on.
Well, it sounds like it may be costing her more than what is
right.
proposed here.
Mhm.
And so maybe it would be more beneficial to bring this back after insurance has settled up, or just so we make sure that we're covering Verena's costs at least.
Mhm.
So I'm okay with bringing it back and then just continue.
Seems a little premature.
Rid or award or vote on the money now, it may not even be enough to cover her true costs.
Are you guys voting on the money or to allow them to negotiate with the property owner? Whenever you get into negotiation on.
I'm personally saying, I'm saying to approve the conversation with the process it's already going through. It seems to me we're a little premature and let it take its path. And I think we bring it back for another action item once we know more about it.
Yeah, I believe that we do have to approve the negotiation between Swanson and Associates and the property.
That's your motion.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. To let GSMRA negotiate with the homeowner on a final number for us to settle on.
I will second that motion.
Dave Summer,
Aye.
Joe Hilder,
Aye.
Jen Evans,
Aye.
Joshua Machine,
Aye.
Mike Solari,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right, well, I'll move on to the next action item, which is to consider the formation of a Parks and Recreation ad hoc committee. There's great public interest in the district's parks and recreation activities, including the golf course, the bocce ball court, the horseshoe pits, nature trails, and the multi-sport sport grant project, among others. Because of this high degree of interest, and due to the staff time it takes addressing these topics, it is in the best interest of the district to form an ad hoc committee for Parks and Recreation. This proposed committee can address these various topics in detail, allowing for district staff to focus more on electricity, water, and wastewater concerns. So the goal of this action item is to decide on the number of seats for the committee, the board members involved, the frequency of meetings, and expand on the scope of responsibilities for the committee.
Yes, thank you, Chris. So first, I think we need to address what kind of committee this is. And on further investigation, it looks like this would need to be just a regular committee because it's an ongoing, it'll be an ongoing committee, especially as we are dealing with forming our strategic plan. So that's what we're looking at, and that does require a resolution to form. And along with that, so basically we would be forming a Parks and Recreational Committee. And then further on down the line, we would, for individual projects, we would be forming ad hoc committees. Those are the ad hoc or the subcommittees are more for open-ended or just like for specific topics and specific projects. So that's where the ad hoc committee would come in on. And currently where we're at with this is traditionally, the way I was looking at it, traditionally when the district has formed committees or ad hoc committees, they would go to the different nonprofit groups and have them select somebody to be a representation on the committee. And so that's what I have done for the last couple months, just reaching out to the different nonprofits in our community to get their feedback and their recommendations on who they would like to be on the committee. With that said, we have several more different recreational associations along with more nonprofits in the Cove than we traditionally have had in the past. And that really adds to the number of people on the committee if we were to go that route. Personally, I'm looking at, and what I think that we should be looking at is pulling from a list of the people that have been recommended, but also putting out more community notice about this committee, so we can get more community involvement as interest as well before we pick committee members. And I would say that personally, I think a 7-member committee is the most doable committee as far as being able to coordinate everyone. And also, and then just to address how I'm viewing this committee is that this is a working committee. We will have responsibilities, and part of those responsibilities would be to help identify what type of recreational projects that we could do within district properties, and also help that form our strategic plan with those projects, implementing those into our strategic plan. And then also along with that, helping identify and find funding for such projects, so that we're not just okaying and saying, oh yeah, we want to get that done, but we have no way of knowing how we're going to pay for it. And so that's really, in my view, what this committee would be working on, is not only helping identify what we could be doing on district properties, but also helping look and find funding for these projects moving forward. And so basically it would be 5 community members and 2 board members is what I'm looking at. And yeah, if you have any.
I personally think 7 people is a lot to manage. I really do. I think 5 would be a little bit more doable. But that's just my 2 cents worth. And when you got 7 people, it can get very crazy with different schedules and things like that, and setting things up. It could be very stressful for you.
Yeah. And it definitely, where I started kind of getting is when I was trying to include all the different nonprofits and all the different associations. Right. I was up to a 13-member committee. And that just, because the other part of this aspect is that there will be some project management oversight with this committee, so that we can have all of the projects being discussed in open, round-acted meetings. So I just don't want to leave I don't want to leave people out either. And so that's 7 would be the cap. If we want to go lower than that, that's up to the board.
I would say that it'd have to be a minimum of the 7, because if you go drop into 2, to 5, and 2 of the members are board members, it doesn't seem like we're getting enough community input. So I would have to say that it would have to be the 7. I think that on top of that, we can't be ambiguous. We love to have it all, right? And there's going to be certain groups that want something more than another group may be. So we need to keep everything on an equal footing, more or less. But really, what's the goal? What's the objective? Is it to add for tourism? Is it for the local base? What are the objectives of the committee? Yes, no, I know.
Not tourism, parks and recreation.
Yeah, but they kind of go hand in hand. Well, we got to, when people come here, back to the pickleball, it's like one of the biggest things there is, right? So I think that they go hand in hand, and that same discussion is that then we can bring in more people and do more tournaments and do other things as well. So, but I think that we really need the input of all the community. So I think on a minimum 7, and I would like to be part of that committee.
And so for this meeting, I think what we're looking for, we won't be appointing any of the committee members at this particular meeting, because the rest of the board doesn't have the list of people so far that are willing to volunteer. And then also, we weren't able to get it out to the community at large yet. So that notification needs to go out before we start choosing people. I think I'm with you, Jeff, and I think 7, it is a larger committee. However, I think that it is necessary to help bring in more people, have more community input. What I just want to stress is, yeah, this is Parks and Rec, and this a recreational committee, and this is for the district. This isn't necessarily what a private, we're not going to be taking on private individuals can do themselves. This is for the district as a whole. With that said, moving forward, really for this meeting, what we need to discuss and make is narrow down how many seats, and 2 of those would include board members, and then have staff prepare a resolution for the next meeting, and then we can also add to the list of potential candidates for that committee. The other thing we would need staff to do is reach out to LAFCO. Am I saying that correctly? And just to clarify and make sure that we're forming the committee, that our committee will be meeting all the requirements as far as notifications and how we are formed. LAFCO, just to make sure that we're meeting all the requirements and guidelines. So that would be LAFCO. And then at the next meeting, we would be picking community members and board members.
So my one comment, Chris, would be that, at one point in time we had a park and rec manager. More or less, it was in one of the books of what positions weren't no longer here. So I would say that we also need a position or a lead from staff to be current and up to date on all this. Because again, it's great that we can form a committee, but it's also the staff is the one that's going to implement whatever these committees do. So we're going to need a lead on that as well.
I think is that under Office Administration, that Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you may want to be involved on that committee. I'll also add your name.
So on here it also states the frequency of the meetings.
Yeah.
I like monthly, but it also depends on what you guys got going on.
Yeah.
So we could say at least monthly. Can we do a range of people for it from 5 to 7? So if you do lose one, there's not a sense of urgency to get that seat filled to satisfy the requirements.
I believe we would have to have them check in with LAFCO or LAFCO. I believe we could maybe have an alternate
person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if somebody was,
I like that.
and I'm with you on the once a month meeting, so that it can, and preferably I'm thinking like either the first Thursday of the month, or so it's prior to
our meeting, but yet gives you enough time to collect the data and put stuff together for a presentation.
Exactly. So it's kind of like that first week of of the month, whichever day that would work better.
I think a couple things. One of them, we need to have a time limit for this committee to last. Otherwise, it'll get to be an ambiguous thing going on forever. I recommend 2 years max.
Okay.
And second, I think we need to have really specific deliverables for a group like this. A real goal that is being worked to instead of, again, an ambiguous, let's get together and talk and have another meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of those deliverables ought to be recommendations to the strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I agree with you that it needs to be a lot of public input, but the number of people that's on the committee doesn't really tell you what kind of public input you have. It's how much those people communicate with the community. So I think the people who are on the committee need to have as a goal and a requirement that they speak with the community, whether it's personal contact, whether it's public meetings or something like that. That whatever group we have, 5 or 7 or 15 people, doesn't really matter so much as the contact and the input from the community that they get. So I tend to think 5 people is a good number. I mean, if we had 2 more on this board, our meetings would be all day. They really would. So I think a 2-year time limit, monthly meetings is fine, but at least one specific deliverables, a recommendation for the strategic plan, and that everybody on the committee spends time communicating with the community to inform what they want.
We can get community involvement too, because these will be agendized meetings that are out there for the public to attend, as well as the people on the committee. So I think that'll help with community input on what they're talking about. If we can get people to attend, and I think if you do it on a specific set day every month, then not only will it make it easier for your committee members to put it on their calendars, but then the public can too. And then they, if they're very interested, they will know to come to the meeting like people do here and could be publicized. But I think what we need to do right now is we need to get the resolution figured out as to how many people and how often, and bring it back next month for the resolution to be approved or altered.
I could see going down to a 5-member committee with the knowledge that we will be needing to form some ad hoc committees under that. For instance, let's say for the sports court project, because part of is that that's a one topic, that's a project that has an open and a finish time. Like what is it, 20? Hopefully it doesn't go that long, but it does have like an end date, and so that would be an ad hoc committee, and that would be made under the recommendation of our Parks and Rec committee to our board, where they would be like, okay, now we need this ad hoc committee so that we can deal with this project, this one particular project. The Parks and Recreation committee, it is for the strategic plan. It is like, that is the deliverable. They and why we would be having this kind of ongoing for, I think 2 years, is starting with 2 years, making sure that there's been some actual physical deliverables on that.
2 years is a long time. We need a strategic plan a lot sooner than that.
Right. Well, the strategic plan's ongoing, but we will be within this year, I believe we'll be pretty much finalizing as much as possible what our strategic plan. So for this year, it's going to be really important to have this committee going. But there will be follow up, just making sure that we're recognizing where the funding is coming from. And the other part of this committee isn't to add more to Chris's plate. It's actually for the community to come together and then a couple board members to help deal with some of the community input and both their wants and their concerns. So it's not just the general manager and staff having to really use a disproportionate amount of their time on these projects, because they have bigger projects that they should really be focused on as far as infrastructure goes. And right now, they are spending a lot of time, excess time, on recreation, and not really fair for them or for the community. Yeah, speaking to the choir here, but so to speak. But anyway, we will be probably needing to come back after we form this committee and do some smaller ad hoc committees for the different projects as well. So
Sounds like a lot of work.
it is a lot of work, but that's what being on the board is. It's a lot of work. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I got a quick comment, and I apologize for not thinking of it sooner. I think 2016, it was before I was still a captain when Chief Curry was still here in Humboldt. We had a emergency preparedness committee, and I think that was the last standing committee that RID had. It was a large chunk of CERT folks, fire department members, staff, and then a couple of outstanding citizens, people that were there. I believe Sue was the secretary for that, so she might have all the documentation about how it was formed, the process of it, and then we dissolved it. Susie Fox actually dissolved it after the deliverable was the previous hazard mitigation plan, which we used for FEMA grants and a lot of the fire department grants. So all the tsunami systems and that. So the process is there, and how we did is very similar committee. And it should be in the files there. And then the second part of it is going back to what you were just saying about the Parks and Rec and the RID's capacity. Is anything we add from right now on is something that we do not have the capacity for. So we either increase taxes, increase staffing, or increase our payments to a contractor or a cooperative that's going to run these programs for us. And for the community, that's why we lose out on Parks and Rec a lot of times, because we're prioritizing fire, water, power, sewer, and rec. And so going forward, the recreation is one of the things that the community doesn't come and play on the power lines with Johnny or play with the sewer lines with Frank or on the fire trucks with us. The community does play on our recreation. They hike on the trails and they deal with that. And so when you guys come to these board meetings, we hear a lot of complaints on Park and Rec. That's the biggest issue, is we're prioritizing our funds and our staffing for those critical infrastructure pieces of the RID. And so I think it's a long time coming, and it's definitely needed to have more community involvement in the building of the Parks and Rec, because we just simply don't have time. The fire department's helping out as much as we can with Parks and Rec too, with mowing and other things and community center maintenance, because we are at that point of it's all fiscal, the fiscal decision. So, yeah, anything you guys need help wise with that, let me know. I have a little bit of experience in committees and stuff like that.
Thank you, Nick, and that was well said. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the assistance of our nonprofits could help with funding, even if we've got to do some fundraising for a specific project or stuff like this. I think this committee will do really well. I'm hopeful, and take the burden off of RID. Some of it, because keeping up with the golf course alone is a challenge.
With that said, I know a 7-member sounds like a lot, but I think it is doable. And then the subcommittees could maybe be a little bit smaller, but or that. I'm leaning to 7-member personally.
Monthly, 7 people.
Anything else? We want to put forth any public comment on forming of this committee or writing the resolution?
Yeah, I think first of the month.
I would like to agree with you that 7 people would maybe be a little better than 5. It's an opportunity for new, fresh voices.
Thank you, Wendy. Anyone else?
There is one comment online. Okay, go ahead.
You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. It's Pam Brenner here. I wasn't sure if I misheard that you're thinking of reaching out to the nonprofits and the other associations to get folks from their organizations to be on this committee. Did I misunderstand that, or was that what was proposed?
Yes, Pam, that's actually already been done for the most part. Now we will be reaching out to, we will put out a notification probably in the newsletter, next month's newsletter, along, I mean, and perhaps a Facebook post to bring attention to this committee and to garner a community member interest, just random community members, like community member at larges, so to speak.
Okay, thanks. Just a couple of comments. I think you're missing out on the opportunity for people who are residents in the Cove who would like to participate in this kind of environment, but do not belong to one of the nonprofits or the other organizations. And in a way, it sounds to me, it starts becoming a little bit incestuous with nonprofits, organizations, RID kind of controlling everything. So that's just one comment. The other comment is that I think that, considering that you're not keeping the lights on here and you're not keeping the water flowing, I think meeting once a month is actually quite onerous. I think that you should consider going to either every 2 months or every 3 months, like a quarterly meeting for this committee. And I would also encourage you not to go into too many ad hocs, because sounds to me like what you're building here is a hierarchical kind of environment, which will get bogged down sooner than you know it. So those are just a couple of comments that I wanted to offer. Thank you for the opportunity.
This is Tesha. Thank you, Pam. I do like your recommendation as far as looking at putting it out to community members at large, and we will be doing that, so it's not just coming from the different nonprofits. I would say that initially, I believe that we do need to have like a once a month meeting, because this is about the strategic plan, and we're wanting to get that going. And then maybe moving forward after that, we could go down to less amount of meetings, but initially, at least for this first year, I would say a once a month plan.
Yeah,
I mean, a once a month meeting.
I agree.
I have to say, I agree with Tasha on that one. I think in the initial outcome, we need to at least have it once a month, so we can get something done and set the goals and objectives of the committee. I think that the issue needs to be once a month, beginning of the month, so that we are prepared as a board. Back to what Mike was saying, is making sure that we have the input from the committee members, but we also need to formalize the time, not just the day.
How do we do that? Or do you want to just, we have to figure out how many people. Yeah.
Do that with the resolution, not with the motion?
We'll do, the resolution is next month.
Right, so
Making the motion.
So why don't we make the motion to do a resolution, bring it back, and incorporate in that resolution what the board has discussed here as far as meeting number. So, yeah.
Well, can we get on the same page as far as how many people? I'm with 7.
I'm fine with 7. I mean,
And
more is better, but it's a lot to manage.
okay, and I'm thinking maybe the first Thursday of the month.
I agree with that.
Do we want to do it during work hours? So if you wanted to be a part of that committee, do we know how that looks?
Jessica's going to be part of it.
Me that potentially limits your community choices for people who have jobs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion.
Sue was just the secretary to take notes.
Okay.
She didn't have to be a voting member, but she can be there taking notes and giving input.
Mm-hmm. I would just say,
how many voting members.
right, how many voting members, but I also, like, if you were there to take notes, like, not necessarily having you have to come in after hours was more my.
And Nick, do you recall when you held that?
During work hours.
Okay.
Yeah, she was there.
Or alternatively, we could have a secretary from within the committee, and then things that needed to be done by staff could be communicated.
I think having a staff representative is important.
I do too.
They don't have to be a voting.
Right.
I'm open to whatever time.
Okay.
do we want to say, so that we could include community members that may have regular work? Do you want to do it during the?
You know, I have a tendency to think that we should do it like we do this board meeting. You know, I think that we do it at 9 o'clock on the first Thursday of the month. That way, community members can be involved. You know, and it's during work hours. So that's my inclination. I'm flexible.
And that's my inclination too, although we do get a lot of pushback about having the meetings during the work hours. So I'm just wondering if for this committee, if we should do it in the evening.
I'm going to say that, you know, we can even do that depending on how we notify it and notice to the public. We could start in the morning on one and then the next one in the evening. So we could change it up so that it allows further, you know, the community members to be involved. So I would not be opposed to that either.
It really depends on the parties involved. It really does. So I say set it and say this is what it is, and if they can come, great. If they can't, you know, maybe you could also let them Zoom in too if they're not available.
That's true. And then maybe if it just looks like the morning time Thursday meetings isn't working for the committee, then we would just change it.
Just make it, just do Thursdays and
Yeah.
kind of leave that up to whoever's putting things together to determine a time frame. Go from there.
Okay. Do you have anything, Dick?
Yeah, yeah, I think the time of the meeting, younger working couples would be, I think, more likely to come in the evening. And that's got to be a big part of who this is going to serve. So, you know, I'm not going to be on it probably, but daytime would be good for me. I'm retired, but people who work evening would probably be better if you want something for your kids. You know, it doesn't really matter to me, but that's what I think.
Linda? Linda Franklin, I've been a resident for many years. My thoughts on that is, do you really have to set the time in the setup of it? Isn't that something that the people that are on the committee can develop what's the best time for them? And you're not cutting out people that way.
I agree with Linda on that, because I think when you agendize the meeting and it's put out to the public, then the public will know when you're having it, what time. You can pick the first Thursday of the month so that people can schedule a little bit. But I also think, you know, there are going to be people that want to be on this committee that work and just can't get here at 9 o'clock in the morning. And to really get the kind of input we need from the community, there are young families out here that I know work, and we probably want some of their input, whether it's as a member of the audience or on the committee. So my recommendation is we do the resolution based on the day of the month so that everybody knows it's the first Thursday. But then when you agendize the meeting and post it publicly, which will be required, that's when you can tell the time. And that's just, you know, my suggestion on that. Thank you, Linda.
That sounds good.
That sound good?
Yeah.
You want me to make a motion for a resolution?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to make a resolution to form this Parks and Recs committee, establishing that the meetings be on the monthly, on the first Thursday of the month, times pending, and up to 7 people.
I'll second that motion.
Justin Shane,
Aye.
Mike Solori,
Aye.
Jeff Hildreth,
Aye.
Dave Summer,
Aye.
Jan Evans.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next action item, which is to consider updating District Policy 2201. Long title for the recruitment, training, retention, and separation of district personnel from district employment. We updated this policy back in February this year. Subsequently, we discovered there were some things we could have added to it, and so now we are adding them. The main state of the policy includes the addition of open or closed promotional hiring practices and an eligibility list ability for the recruitment process, plus some minor grammatical changes. This is the first reading of the updated policy. A lot of this verbiage came from other cities' personnel manuals that do practice open closed promotional hiring and eligibility list ability. So I wanted to make sure we had a full gamut of options available to us in our hiring and retention policy.
I like the fact that you've included the one on the promotional, the closed and open, because I think it's important to promote our people from within. That's retention, and we need that. I'm not sure I like a full year on an eligibility list. But I guess if this is basically allowing you to determine how long it remains in effect with a maximum of a year, it might be okay. I just think that's a long time for having a list in a community as small as this with as few applicants as we get that are able to do that job.
I think a year is fine. I've seen 2 and 3 years, but yeah, because the community is small, but there's a lot of resources that goes into creating these lists. And if we do it more than annually, it could become a burden. Getting those lists done and having everything prepared. It's a lot of work. So, something to think about.
Chris, is this the on the eligibility list? Did it come from other agencies that you followed?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is pretty much standard hiring practice. Okay.
The only difference I see is that we're much smaller than San Francisco and Santa Rosa, and these that maybe have 100 applicants for a job, and they've got 10 or 15 of them that are qualified. I don't see that we have that many out here to have it going that long. That's what I'm going after, is that I know once we've interviewed people and developed the list, I sometimes wonder if it's a good idea to keep it for a year, but that obviously is the board member's decision.
I'm okay with the year max. I am not okay with keeping that list for 2 to 3 years or an open-ended for the general manager at the general manager discretion. And that is going back to what Jan is showing, and I had the same concern, is that our list of qualified people is not going to be as long as a list of somewhere in Fortuna or Eureka. And after somebody, let's just say hypothetically, Jessica, you're in your position for a year and a day, or a year or so, and then something happens and you have to leave, I would expect that the general manager, that the district would put out for that appointment again, because it's like a year later. There may be other interest. We may have other people interested that are qualified that aren't on that list. So I would like to see this at least with a term of a max of a year, and not really going beyond that. So that way it gives the district and the general manager an opportunity to put out to the public and receive more applications.
I like a year. Definitely. Everything else looks great to me.
Anyone else have comments?
No, it doesn't matter to me whether it's a year or more. It really doesn't. Not going to be that many people on the list. If they're on the list, we might call them back. But if they're not on the list, we might still, because they were, and we know they might be interested.
My reasoning behind that too is though that after a year, we may have new residents that have moved in that have got a skill set that might, be advantageous for the district. But it's just,
I have to say, either way, it's up to the discretion of the general manager. So, I mean, it's going to be how he goes about his job search and bringing it up. Either way, he can have it on a year list, but he can also add it at any time to that list. You know, and I think my comment was really more like if this is standard hiring practice for special districts, it's not the bigger or the littler, you know. But I'm going to say back to my initial comment was it's really up to the general manager.
Yeah, this, on page 2, the current draft, it does say as a general policy, eligibility lists shall remain in effect for not more than 1 year. Eligibility lists may remain in effect for more than 1 year at the general manager's discretion. It's kind of built in there. And these are just options. It doesn't mean we're going to have this for every job opening in the district.
Right, it's just a tool. Yeah, an extra tool for him in the hiring process.
Any public comment on this first reading? All right. We have a motion.
We need a motion for this?
Well, it's an action item, Mike, so yeah, we have to bring it back for a second read.
I will read the recommendation then. I'll make a motion to review the updated district policy 2201, recruitment, training, retention, and separation of district personnel from district employment, and recommend any edits before second reading and approval at the November regular board meeting.
My second.
Janet Evans,
Aye.
Tricia Machine,
Aye.
David Summer,
Aye.
Mike Snorri,
Aye.
Jeff Mildred,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay, the next action item is a new district policy. Consider the new district policy 3300, disposal of surplus district property or equipment. Staff has created a new district policy 3300. This policy codifies the disposal of publicly funded property or equipment in a fair and just manner. This is the second reading of this policy. Maintaining the district's adherence to integrity and transparency. We have added some things, edited some things. This allows for more flexibility in the district's methods of disposal of the surplus equipment and property. So, for instance, last meeting, we talked about the online auction component. So added a method of disposal, which will allow for that. And then we also added a section on donations to local nonprofits or government organizations. At the end there. So are there any questions?
Not for me.
Yeah, one comment for editing. Be good to be consistent using district instead of grid or grid number 1 or all of that. You know, just refer to it as a district once it's stated in the document. And also, there was something almost the last line, the next to the last line, provides significant additional value, or if the community benefit outweighs financial return. Value there, is that, we're talking about money or are we talking about something else? What do you actually mean by value?
Yeah, I think that would be income.
Income, okay, yeah, replace that then.
So when we talked about getting rid of surplus property, vehicles, things like that, we'd always sent them off to auctions before because of liability. Liability is my big concern here. If we were to auction something off here, what kind of liability are we looking at?
There is something built into the policy about junk certificates are obtained for vehicles that are sold to protect the district from liability. I would have to research that.
Okay, because that's the only concern I have. John probably knows a little something about it.
Like, when I worked for Green Diamond, they used for network connections. So somebody would have to go to the DMV, physically junk the titles for all those, and then it would go into a like silent bid auction where you say, this is what one I want to put $500 on. You win it, you get basically a bill of sale, and then you have to go to the DMV and do light check and all that stuff. And to register, you have to. It's a salvage title. So that was their way of doing it, but so somebody's physically going to have to go to Garville to do that with whatever, the vehicle or whatever, things like that. And I don't know how it would work with, like, if we got rid of one of the generators for some reason, one of the portable units. I don't know how that would work because they don't have a title, right?
Right. I'm just thinking we sell an old vehicle, someone drives right out here at Shelter Cove Road and it explodes. What is our liability? Those are things I think we need to make sure that we are covered on for that prior to moving forward with this myself.
And then I had something, moving forward with the donations, the criteria for donation. I would like it just clarified. I wouldn't want land, real estate to be included in the donation category, because that could, potentially, we're not donating land in local nonprofits and such. That's public lands. So I see property, and that's what I was thinking, like real estate. I was like, oh, are we donating land now? And so just if we could clarify that. I mean, I don't believe that was your intention, or is that the intention?
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
That we wouldn't be donating district property.
Well, when I read that, I had a thought, and my favorite word is liability. If a nonprofit wanted something, I mean, if we donated that land to that nonprofit, our liability would be gone.
But then we would also, nonprofits come and go,
Yeah.
boards come and go.
Right, I know.
And so to give public land away like that, and then
I agree with you.
like that's a liability from my perception, that would be,
okay.
Because what if the next year that nonprofit doesn't exist? Then we just gave them property.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Well, boards come and go.
Still the discussion of that particular board.
But if we make it a practice or we have it in policy that we can give land away to nonprofits, I could see future boards being petitioned by certain nonprofits, and I just think that is that's a risk.
All right, fair enough.
Personally, I would like to see that clarified, that we're not talking about real estate.
Chris, has it ever happened?
Not that I'm aware of. Never.
Taking donations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've taken donations, but we
Right.
haven't donated
Right.
to any nonprofits. That's where the difference is.
Okay. But it's gonna be up to the discretion of the board. Exactly,
And
right?
that's what I brought up at the last meeting, is that I kind of thought that the land part of this should be a separate unto itself.
That should only be for.
It's a line item.
I think it goes back to Dave's too about value, versus property is also, these chairs are already property, so
Right.
clarifying that stuff, I think is a good point.
And I'm talking about land. So, would we need a separate
You can make that a separate line item.
policy or separate?
What if it's a nonprofit that are wanting to do low-income housing.
And that's what the SLA, the Surplus Land Act is about. A large part of it is about public housing. But again, there are, I guess it would be up to the board, but you would be potentially donating public land to a private entity to
It's
make
also
public
bringing property that we are not getting taxes on
back
to
onto
make
them.
them taxable properties again.
That's true. But it would just, I don't, if that's.
I don't like you closing the door on it when you have the board, that board, like you say, changes, somebody might be more inclined at donating property that was donated to you. So I think the real property should go on it.
I'm gonna have to agree too, because personally, I'd love to see a small living wage community in Shelter Cove, and I think that RID has the property where we could make that happen, and I would sure hate to shut that door.
I know I was here when the 21 properties were donated to the Cove, to the RID on a meeting. So 21 properties, that's a lot of income and taxes.
If they're buildable, yeah.
There are greenbelt areas that we have to set aside by how the RID is created also. So we have to look into that. And I think it's definitely a discussion for a more in-depth look. It might not even fit into this particular policy.
That's what I'm.
Acquisition.
Well, I think Nick just hit it on the head. I think that we leave properties and define what properties are, meaning a chair. But I also think that we need another policy for land. So I would suggest, Chris, you kind of add to that.
I agree that maybe we should have a separate one for anything that has to do with land and real estate. And that comes before the board. But this policy, to have it just be for the things like trucks and anything surplus here that's physical, more like a fixed asset than real estate.
Yeah, there's a section, a small, tiny, like 1-sentence section in here about real estate that could expand on that or separate it, cancel it, take it out.
I think you separate it.
I'm in agreement with that, so that we can be very clear.
Yeah, I think we're onto something. Yeah. I mean, we can consider this one the disposal of surplus equipment, and then we'll down the road look at one for property.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Real estate, yeah.
Yeah.
So, any public comment?
Using our public.
Yeah, we're losing public. So do we want to go ahead and make the motion that with edits and removing real property from here and creating a separate?
Do that.
So go ahead and approve this as modified.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve District Policy 3300 disposal of surplus equipment as modified and or edited.
I second it.
Mike Solori,
Aye.
Dan Evans. Aye. Jessica Machine,
Aye.
Jeff Hilder,
Aye.
Dave Summer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, next action item is to consider revisions to policy 2370, which is the job description for the general accounting clerk. In an effort to plan for future succession, staff have identified the need to make changes to district policy 2370. There are 3 main changes to this policy. First, the job title is now accounting administrator, which makes it more consistent with policy 2010, the personnel policy. Second, the update places this position under the supervision of the administrative superintendent instead of the general manager. Finally, the update calls for a higher level of education and experience than previously required for this position. Are there any questions or comments?
My comment on it is I want people to understand this is not replacing Tony or anything like that. This is for when she retires, because Tony has even indicated that this is what she feels needs to be in that position now that the district, the situation we're in as far as the size and the complexities, that she felt that there should be someone with more experience and background that she could train and that would come in and be able to act as your finance person. So this is definitely for succession, not for anything to be applied currently. And when the position opens up, this is what it would go to.
Jan, is this standard in this field, the education level,
Yes,
for a minimum qualification?
yes.
Thank
Yeah, there should be experience because there are a lot of complexities to governmental accounting.
Mhm.
And you need somebody who can do all of that. And I think now I have found in my 2 years on this board, we need some more financial reporting, and that requires a bit more experience.
Okay.
Because financial reporting is what Chris is going to need, and the board is going to need to do strategic planning and keep the plan going.
Okay, thank you.
So I wanted to add, in the report here, it says financial impact none. I'm not sure if that would be exactly true with these increased level of education and experience that might entail an increased salary. We would have to research that as far as how it coincides with other agencies.
I have a question on the first page under essential functions and duties. Number 2 was crossed out, ensure proper posting to general ledger and customer accounts of all cash receipts. Why was that eliminated?
Maybe I can ask Jan for some help.
Well, I think why we eliminated it is because you don't need to, if you have your subledgers working, which they should be, their subledgers do the automatic posting to the general ledger. What we're doing now is the subledger, particularly the accounts receivable, does not post to the general ledger. So separate entries are being made for those. Going forward with the accounting system being utilized properly, all of this should be posting automatically into the general ledger, which is the only reason why I think we modified it to be like that, because the customer receipts, et cetera, are being put in as a lump sum journal entry right now. They're not, that part of the QuickBooks is not being utilized. It's being done in an Excel spreadsheet. But going forward, the hope is with the new accountants that we will, and a new billing system, that we will be able to have everything automated to the point where there's not this manual intervention of posting to the general ledger.
Still seems like it needs to be done, at least until we get a new system.
Well, that can be taken and put back in, but my hope is that we would at least start utilizing QuickBooks a little bit more robustly.
Under essential functions and duties, I think that's on F, work with administrative superintendent on cash planning for each month. I would like to see the general manager in on that. The 3 of them working together on that, make sure that you're also identifying what is needed. Ultimately, it's the general manager that's responsible for, right?
Ultimately, he is, but typically what you do is you prepare something from the accounting side of it and you hand it to the general manager for his approval. Because if we keep putting stuff on Chris's plate that belongs in another position, Chris is not going to have time to do his job. So I think it becomes the administrative superintendent and her accounting administrator to prepare the documentation and for them to sit down with Chris and say, this is what we're going to need this month. This is how it's financial, it's cash planning that needs to be done so that the money is there every month moved and in the proper account to be able to pay all the bills that have been identified as needing to be. And of course, if you're given all the background materials while you're sitting down for a meeting with that, then Chris would have the information he needs to question anything. But a lot of it is, we need to start making sure that not every function in here ends up in the general manager's lap. That's what we hire the people for, that have the background. Yeah.
And hence the strategic plan.
Pardon?
And the strategic plan.
Everything looks good.
And this is just the first read, so.
So this isn't really my forte, but say we needed somebody, hypothetically, and they didn't possess this degree, but yet had working experience in the county and just worked their way up in an accounting. Could we put equivalent or equivalent?
I thought we had that, that was one of the changes made.
Not under licenses and certificates. BS or
Oh, I
associate
see
degree
what
in
you're
accounting.
saying, Mike, because up above it says, experience,
Right, but
and
this
5
is,
years, yeah.
this
I
is
see
the
what you're
must.
saying down here, it's changed from
Right.
what we're specifying up. Because when we were working on this, we were trying to put in there the experience
Right.
factor, because it doesn't necessarily have to, we haven't put in the equivalent, which is what I think we ended up doing on something else that we figured to
Right.
add that.
I think it's necessary just in case.
Okay, well,
Internet quality.
yeah, our internet's all goofy here. But I think we need to make sure that there's a certain amount of equivalent experience for
Correct.
all of this.
So you could add the government side, but add a line item number 3.
Or equivalent experience with governmental accounting. So if they came from somewhere like another CSDA where they've been, an experienced bookkeeper, that we could possibly put that in there.
Right.
Yep. Good point.
That's a good point, especially out here.
Any other comments?
Uh-uh.
Any public comment on the change to this job description? Okay, we'll bring it back next month for some edits.
Okay. Yeah, so the next item is to consider revisions to policy 3010, injury and illness prevention program. And Nick,
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, almost, we started going through the process of our OSHA audit, and kind of saw right on the wall that the audit was gonna actually happen out here. And a lot of that came from misinterpretation of safety policies, procedures, and OSHA mandates. I had previous experience of running an IIPP program for aviation and the stateside, and we decided as a group of superintendents to change our policy up a little bit and to come up with a new injury illness prevention program. So IIPP is not a policy. The way the RID had it laid out in policy 3010 is the program was the policy. So a program is something that the staff follows to stay safe, and it's guided by OSHA mandates and recommendations. We were kind of missing the mark on that as a district. The program was thrown together before my time and then added to anytime some new thing would come up, but we weren't necessarily keeping up with it at the board policy level. So this proposal is to take on the injury illness prevention program and separate it from the policy. The policy that you guys are going to be reviewing is to set the guidance of how we develop and implement the program, but not the program itself. the attached IIPP manual is a living document that staff will utilize to run the safety program, but it's not the entire policy, if that makes sense. So you guys were, I don't know if you were able to see the previous policy was 40 pages because it was the entirety of the program. So with me being the new safety officer / program coordinator for the safety, this will work for all fire, water, power, everybody, office staff, everybody will be following the same IIPP, which is the Injury Illness Prevention Program. It is mandatory to have one from OSHA, but what they make mandatory is not necessarily the working program. We want something that employees can utilize to stay safe, not just cover our butts on the OSHA side, right? So this is an actual functioning program that everybody will have access to, hopefully without having to come and ask Jessica and us and I to walk them through it. It's going to come with training, forms that you can fill out on the computer, or handwritten, and we can actually utilize it to make this place safer. So today, just review and go over pulling the policy separate from that manual, and then the staff will develop the manual over time, and the board will have access to the manual, but won't have to vote to approve it. It will be a GM level program in the RIP, so staff level program.
Anyone have any questions? For Nick on this?
I don't. I've looked over it. It looked good to me.
It looks really good. Thank you, Nick. I know this took some work, and I already discussed that with you, just with the appendices, just to add the noise and hearing conservation intent.
There's about 100 other appendices. And the cool thing about it is it will be unique. So the water guys will have their own water appendices that they need and required through them that might not be required through the fire department. And that's something we also don't have right now. It's kind of just all over the place with binders. And that's one of the requirements of the OSHA plans, is that our employees know where to find the actual plan. So, and it will be live. If something ever happens to me, somebody else can take on a program that's going across the entire state, which is really important. Right now, what we had previously with our last safety officer was a bunch of half-done policies that never really got implemented, and then the staff themselves didn't know what to follow or what were rules or regulations, and it makes it hard. So this will actually set some procedures which we've never really had on that side.
And you are the current safety officer?
Yeah, as soon as this gets implemented. That was one of the things. We've been working on this for a while now, but if the policy changed, we would have to kind of rewrite it. So I wanted to make sure that we get the policy on the board side settled so that we can work on the manual itself.
Does the public have any comment on this policy change? Okay. So, this is the first read.
First reading.
Bring it back next month and for vote. Is that the intention? Okay.
Well, that's a good job.
Yeah, thank you.
For all of you to think on this. Okay. Last item is unfinished business. Oh,
One more.
Where's that? Oh,
One more.
GSRMA.
Is this the same thing we had earlier, or was that a different group? Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
this is very similar to the LAFCO item a few months back. This is to consider nominations for a district member to serve on the GSRMA Board of Directors. That's our risk management insurance provider, GSRMA. An insurance group that serves the needs of public entities throughout the state of California. GSRMA was created for the purpose of providing services and other items necessary and appropriate for the establishment, operation, and maintenance of liability, workers' compensation, property, and other risk pooling and insured plans for public agencies. They also provide their members with a forum for discussion, study, development, and implementation of recommendations of mutual interest regarding risk pooling and insured programs. So they have a 7-member board of directors, 2 county representatives, 1 city representative, 1 special district representative, and 1 school representative, and 1 cemetery representative, and 1 fire district representative. So they're trying to cover everybody in their representation. Board members serve 2-year terms and meetings are bi-monthly in Willows, California. They also, if you read their letter, you can also remote participate in the meeting. GSRMA serves over 100 special districts and typically receives a few nominations for each type of representative on their board. The term of service would begin on July 1st next year and end on June 30th, 2027. GSRMA has put out a call for nominations for special district board members to serve on their board of directors. So the recommendation here, well, financial impact, there is a $5,000 annual incentive for the district for professional development expense. And each special utility or each special district may self-nominate their district to serve. That's our recommendation, is for each special district may self-nominate their district to serve on the GSRMA governing board. If elected, then the district must appoint one of our board members to serve on their board. This is an option.
I'm in favor for it. I think that we need representation. I don't think the odds are very good that out of 100 special districts that you never know.
Do you want to be nominated?
I nominate Jeff.
And Jeff will do it. I said it's all the hard work. That's why we're here.
Anybody have any comment on this?
Harlan?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, really, to have it, especially when we're dealing with something on the agenda today that deals with them about the $2,000 compared. So I think that it's a win-win.
Okay. Need a motion for that?
Yeah, it says so.
Yeah. There's the bottom, basically, the recommendation is your motion. That we want to nominate.
I'll make a motion to nominate Jeff Eldred to the GSRMA board.
I'll second that.
Wait a minute, I thought we were nominating us to be in on it, and then we
Right,
would
then
appoint
the
somebody.
board nominates who.
A representative.
Yeah, first we have to say, I think the way this reads and the way Chris is indicating, it's the district that says we want to be involved. And if our
Okay.
district is selected, then the board nominates or find someone who's willing to take on that work.
Okay, perfect.
So that needs to be revised a little.
Okay,
You want to revise?
I'll revise that motion.
Oh, I see.
I'll just read this recommendation.
Yeah, it's probably the best.
Each special district may self-nominate their district. So I nominate Resort Improvement District number 1 to the GSRMA governing board.
Second that.
Steve Summer,
Aye.
Jeff Hildreth,
Aye.
Jan Evans. Aye. Trustee Singh,
Aye.
Mike Satori,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay.
One more. I have fun, irrelevant comments to make.
Okay, that's fine. It's unfinished
When
business.
Nick mentioned several years ago, we had that meeting for emergency preparedness. We're sitting right here in one of those meetings, and Cheryl got a beep on her beeper, and she looked at it and said, "Oh, it says there's a fire in Chico." It was Paradise that day.
Aw.
I remember that really well.
Anyone else with any
No
unfinished business?
No.
All right. No further. Adjourned at 11:20.